It is time for Untether.tv. Welcome, everybody. I'm your host, Rob Woodbridge, also the founder of this here television show on the web. You know, this is a place where I bring you, and I say this every episode, but today I really mean it, where I bring you the guys who are creating the things that we don't even know we want yet, that we're not even sure we want yet, but at some point it's going to click and we are going to want it. And we're building these things as the industry is maturing and going. And you know, I'm so excited. I'm so enthusiastic. About 14 or so months ago, I sat down with a guy named Whurley, and he was introduced to me this way. You have to interview Whurley. You will love him. That was it. That was the email that I got. I sat down with Whurley, and I interviewed him, and it was like a 95-minute interview, and I loved him. And since that day, I've been trying to get him back, and I'm so excited to bring him back here. We were originally going to talk about a few things, but really we're going to talk about the Board of Awesomeness, which is, if you can picture it, you hurtling down the street on a longboard, going 32 miles an hour, using your hands to start and stop. All done with a Microsoft Kinect, a Windows tablet, and a longboard, a whole lot of electronics, and actually I heard some kind of chemical reaction as well, chemical engineering. We'll talk about all that, plus what they've been up to right now. Oh, and you'll see it. Two guys on the screen right now. Phil Wheat, who is the manager of Chaotic Moon Labs, and of course, Whurley, the GM of Chaotic Moon, and Pure Evil Genius, right?
I like Pure Evil Genius better. I think it would change the cards.
Pure Evil Genius. Look, so glad you guys could do this. I know you're back from CES, where I think the Board of Awesomeness on many people's lists was one of the highlights of the show, because it wasn't humdrum, how much RAM can you jam into a device, what's a quad core, blah, blah, blah. This was, hey, get on this thing and hold on for the ride of your life. Congratulations, guys.
Thanks. It was awesome. I mean, it was really popular. We probably, even as big as we thought it'd be, we probably underestimated the popularity. I mean, Phil and I walked into the trade show floor, and how long did it take us to get? We were walking from
all day.
Yeah, we were literally talking to meet a partner of ours, and the walk took like almost all day. It was like 4:30 by the time we got to their booth, and we weren't walking all the way across CES. We were just in Central Hall, because every 5 steps, you know, someone would stop and ask you, and you'd want to tell them, and then the crowd would gather, and then eventually CES security would disperse it, and you'd walk another 10 feet, and it all happened again.
I don't think we ever made it halfway across. We stayed on that one on the north half of Central Hall the entire week.
Yeah.
So this was, I want to get into the Board of Awesomeness, but for those people who don't know about you guys, Chaotic Moons, Chaotic Labs, Whurley, and Phil, why don't you kind of give an overview of what you guys are? You're in Austin, Texas, and go.
So Chaotic Moon Studios was formed 2 years ago this March, so we're coming up on our 2-year anniversary. And basically, we had a really simple business plan, which is we had a slogan, all your mobiles are belong to us. And the business plan was we wanted to do everything in mobile and have, you know, kind of touch every part of it. Yep. And since we've talked in those 14 months, we have done some crazy stuff. We released The Daily on iPad and Android for Steve Jobs and Rupert Murdoch, the big News Corp project. We've had a bunch of new things like Steven Spielberg's Falling Skies that we've started doing apps for. We did the X Factor for TNT. We did Grover, which, you know, I know is popular with kids everywhere, including yours, the monster at the end of this book. And literally just dozens and dozens of other really, you know, top name, top brand type of projects for, you know, some of the biggest brands in the world. And that's been great, but that's also all been in our studio business alone. We broke the company last year into 3 parts. So we have studios, which does all of the work for hire and management functions. So a lot of brands will come to us and say, manage our strategy, manage, you know, the whole, like, we just be the mobile group. Like, you know, we want cool mobile stuff. Here's,
you do it.
Yeah, you do it. And so we do that. And that all happens under studios. But we also started a game division. Now, we're not quite ready to announce it, but in a couple of weeks, we're going to have a huge announcement. And then we're going to bring somebody in who basically be my counterpart in games, who's a top 3 gaming name, and that's going to be super exciting. But the games division has been doing all kind of crazy stuff. They're doing all of Care Bears and Strawberry Shortcake and Sanrio and stuff, but then they're doing these really cool things. So they've been acquiring games and rights to games, a lot of big famous iPad games, and a lot of the originals. Things like Enigma that was on the iPhone originally is now on all platforms. Nanosaur, a bunch of the Brian Greenstone's titles, a bunch of other titles, literally dozens and dozens and dozens of titles. And then in addition to that, they've been creating engines to do conversions. So they are now converting Xbox Live games to iPads and Tegra tablets and things like that. The first one of which will come out around South by Southwest, so about 6 weeks away, which is called Age of Booty, which is a game by a company called Certain Affinity, an incredibly popular Xbox Live title, which will be the first one that uses all the engine and principles and basically takes it and puts it on Android tablets, iPad, and iPhone. And the Android tablets will include things like the Nook and the Kindle Fire as well. So it's going to be, they're going to be on, a dozen devices. Yeah, absolutely. And then I guess the third thing is we started like a labs, and we thought we would do experiments. And
we are in Austin, so we have to keep it weird.
We had a sign that was made that said, no accident in so many days. And then somebody suggested that it said hours instead of days. And
you got to put the decimal after the days.
Yeah, exactly. There's been some tragic accidents, but you know what? Out of all of that comes things like the Board of Awesomeness. So clearly, it's worth it.
Okay, so it just you threw out a whole bunch of names there. It's just incredible. I mean, first off, you are my kids' heroes because of the Grover book. There's a monster at the end of the book. That's a childhood. I don't know. I loved that book growing up when I was a kid. I still love it today. And I saw it on the iPad. I downloaded it. My kids, I think, have probably watched it 3,000 times. And each time, they still, they're killing themselves laughing. They're knocking down bricks. If you haven't downloaded that application, go and do it because it's ridiculously incredible. But, I mean, that's just one example. And I would say that, Sesame Street may be a small slice, a huge thing that you did with Rupert Murdoch, Steve Jobs, and The Daily. And maybe we just kind of... We spent a minute on that because it deserves a lot more. But the Board of Awesomeness deserves way more than that. But
no. The Daily Board of Awesomeness beats every. It's like rock, paper, scissors, Spock. It's like Board of Awesome. It's the Spock. But the Daily was an incredible project. We feel so lucky to have been able to participate in that. It was a wonderful experience. I mean, a lot of people. There was a lot of criticism when it came out and so on and so forth. But you have to remember, it was the first. Yeah. It was the first Apple subscription, app. It was the first app of its type. It was the first app to send so much data down so quickly, like 360-degree photos and models that were rendered on the iPad, and it had just this unbelievable level of numbers of things that were the first. I mean, it's the first commercial to ever have a Super Bowl commercial for it, right? Which obviously is because Super Bowl's on on Fox and all of that, but still, it's a lot of effort to put behind marketing an app. But the awesome part of the Daily isn't all of the incredible engineering that the team that worked on it did here at Chaotic Moon, and the team of the Daily, and all of the collaboration that happened across multiple segments, in companies to make that, what it is. The cool part is, about 3 weeks ago, Apple listed out all the top apps for 2011. The Daily was number 3 on the top highest grossing iPad apps, which is something a lot of people originally doubted. They said it wasn't going to happen, nobody was going to use it, it was named number 3. It got beat by Smurfs Village and Angry Birds. So I think that's fair. but the second thing is,
it shows you where our priorities are, right?
Exactly. Even when Phil and I were at CES this week, we would meet customers, and they would be like, I use the Daily every day, and which is really gratifying, and you're kind of like, whoa, you do? Because no matter how many times you hear it, you're just like, you'll meet people. We met one company that the guy clearly had very, very specific political views, geopolitical views, and everything. And he was like, and I read the Daily every day. And I was like, wow. Yeah. It's like, you meet somebody who's young. I met a young engineer who's at UCLA and has, basically, and he's like, oh yeah, you guys did the Daily. So it's like, we do hear that a lot. Fortunately, we have a bunch of other things that we've done that people talk about, like we did all of CBS Sports and a bunch of other, just tons and tons of stuff. But the thing we hear more about than anything, and you've already mentioned it, is Grover. Yeah. Like I can have the Daily and every other cool, amazing app we've done, and then apps are like top secret, no one can see this. And if the Grover icon is on the iPad, people go click and they touch it first every single time.
But you know what? It's true. It's the ultimate piece of it's the ultimate book. It's the best format. It lends itself so well to it. But I want to talk about that for 1 second. But I want to talk about I agree with you about the Daily. It was a very interesting play because a lot of guys criticized, including print publications, and everybody criticized this really incredible application. And I think that they criticized at the same time as they were kind of hoping for it, because none of the other guys, and I mean this everywhere, they're all trying to take their existing business and jam it into this platform. And what Rupert Murdoch did, and what you guys do with the Daily, is say, we're going to reinvent. Like he built a team around this. It's a different product. It's not part of his newspapers. I mean, this is a different business model altogether. So I applaud you for that. It's what the industry needs. Whether it works or not, it sounds like it is. That's great. But it's what the industry needs is a vision.
It's working, but the bigger thing is what you said. Is once there's a first, then everybody else is like, oh, that's where the landmines are. This is what's hard. This is where we can go, and hopefully it'll help. Hopefully what Rupert has done is transform the media industry through that leadership and that, to be blunt, taking such a huge risk that clearly has paid off. But I mean, even in the first few weeks of it, obviously everyone had their questions. But I mean, he's also not a multi-billionaire because he's stupid.
Because he sits back and waits.
Right. Yeah, exactly. He's a pretty smart guy.
So then the other one, certainly. The Daily was massive for you in 2011. Grover, how do you land something like a Grover book? Because it is so. If you haven't, again, I keep saying, if you haven't played with this, go and download it, because you'll see how an ebook should be done for children. It's stellar.
Well, it's more than you know too. So how do you land something like that? We still January. What's today? The 15th.
16th. Look behind you.
All right. The 16th, we still have not taken out any ads, and we just started today on Monday on a holiday. Our first business development person, he's a guy named Glenn Banton, and we don't really do any marketing other than, oh, that's not true. About 3 months ago, you'll be very impressed with this. We went from a 2-page website, which it was 1 page when you interviewed us the first time, and then it was to 2 that was also a page that said, yes, we did the Daily. And now we actually have an actual full website that has all of the divisions I mentioned, a bunch of other stuff, but it also has products, things that we've productized out of what we've learned. But the point being is that's having a website's about the most we do. And let's not kid ourselves, our website doesn't get millions of views a month or anything, right? All customers come word of mouth. All customers are referred by other customers, are referred by people who know us, people who've heard us speak at trade shows and things like that. So it's very organic. So, how do we get that? We get it the same way we do everything else, which is by reputation. Yeah. You get the opportunity for the introduction, and hopefully you make a good impression and you do the job and deliver something good.
I got to know. I mean, 2 years. You guys have been around for 2 years, and even when I sat down with you over a year ago, you had the reputation already. So yeah. how does that that's an accelerant that I'm not even sure exists. I mean, you have to win the Daily. Somebody has to come to you and say, listen, we want you to do the Daily. How does that happen?
I think we have a really good approach to how we deal with these projects, which is somebody produces this, and then we come in and we tell you the truth. It's like really simple, which is every company that does mobile, most of them, and this is a criticism of our industry, they will tell you, done it before, it's really easy, here's what you do in iOS, here's what you do in Windows Phone 7, here's what you do in Android, we're great and we're awesome. And we're kind of exact opposite. Their websites are kind of plain and bland, and then they come in and they're like, we're freaking great, we can do all this, just don't worry, write a check. Our website is like, we're awesome. But the reality is we're a bunch of actually fairly humble, just really good guys who know what they're doing. So that kind of bravado is kind of a false bravado. And then you meet us and you're like, whoa, these guys are really nice. They know what they're doing. I want to work with them. And then we lead you through a really easy process, which is we tell you we have no idea how something like the Daily or Grover or anything else will work. And if somebody tells you that they do, it would be suspicious they are lying to you, especially when there's nothing to point at as a reference. When you can't be like, oh, for example, the thing about Grover that's awesome is we didn't just build the app. They built an engine where the illustrators use a 3D animation studio to do all of the music and timing and everything, which is why it's so great. And they export it, and then the developer does a very little minor amount of work to just tweak things. That's why between 1.1, 1.0 and 1.1, that it was literally hours, like a couple days. It wasn't a week or two or 3 or 4 between the releases. So we build, again, more systems, more engineering, less development. We don't just throw code and do things. And that's, I think, how you get that reputation is somebody, some of our very first customers, even though they were our very first implementations and we were very young as a company, we still built these magic little machines that they said, ooh, we put our data in here and the update comes out here, and they're independent, right? And independence is important. If you're working with a vendor who wants to do the vendor lock-in thing and, you're dependent upon us and all of that, that's a really big deal. I think people like working with us because the Daily knew, Callaway and Sesame Street knew, all of these companies knew. Eventually we left them, and hopefully we'll left them with more than an app. We left them with a tool set and a process and a methodology to where they're independent. That combined with, for most customers that spend $1 with us, in fact, the majority easily, if not all, they make way more than $1 back that you can actually correlate. Yeah. And so therefore, they'll spend far more dollars with us, right? And so that's led us to this place of kind of the reputation speaks for itself, and then you do things like, we'll get to it later, but you do things like, the new labs projects we're going to be doing at least one a quarter, if not a lot more. We already have one for February coming out. That make people go, wow, these guys don't look like the other companies. They're not an ad agency. They're not this. They're not that. And that really just, people get very comfortable with that. And when you make them successful, and your focus is on making them successful, not putting a new placard on your website, a new tombstone of a great brand, people appreciate that. And by the way, there have been people. I said we get customers word of mouth. We also get customers from people who used to be customers. We've had people who have done so well with apps we've created that they've gotten other job offers and moved sometimes into completely different industries. And then, their boss is like, we got to do this amazing thing. And like, who's the first people they call? They're like, hey, I have a new job. Come on out. And so that's been good. However, this year, 2012, we do plan on marketing a little, like we're going to increase our Facebook posts. We've got cult photos on the website. We're going to do some things that require at least 10 minutes every day.
Jonathan, I think Jonathan's going to be doing a little more than that.
Yeah, and hopefully Jonathan will be doing more than that, else Ben will eat you.
You don't just take every job that comes your way. Obviously, you've reached a time now where you can be very selective. Maybe you were always like that, but it just seems like every job that you do is every job that you do for your clients is the greatest job you could possibly get. Like it would have been a joy to work on some of these things. But do people come to you? They come to you and you turn them down, or how do you handle that?
We owe that to two people. Steve Smith, who's our chief technical officer, a longtime friend of mine. Steve said very early on, there's just going to be things we have to say no to. No matter how much money's there, we just have to say no. And Ben Lamb, now CEO, and one of my two co-founders, Ben really took that to heart. And we came up with a formula, which is, people ask us, like, everything you touch is golden. And the secret isn't that, we're like mystical beings. The secret is we don't touch stuff that we can't turn to gold. It's like we only hit against pitchers we know suck that we can hit home runs. No, I'm just kidding. But it's like you have to set yourself up for success. And sometimes that means, taking no risk. Some of the things, doing something like a Grover is not a risk. It's amazing, but it's a risk if you don't do it right. But at the level we're playing it, it's like we know we're going to do it right. We know we can hit that out of the park. Doing something daily was a huge risk by contrast, but it was a calculated risk. And it came down to the following, which is no one wants to be the first. Right. Being the first sucks. Yep. To catch all the criticism, technology pioneers get arrows in the back, blah, blah, blah. We can name 500 million reasons why being the first can be a very detrimental thing. How many companies have you seen that have been first to market, went out of business, lost their funding or whatever, and 2 years later somebody else comes out with it and they're the greatest thing since popcorn. And people have been around say, you kind of owe it to that pioneer there. They never get paid. And so something that the Daily and some of our other large projects, there's a flip side to that coin. Only one company can be the first.
Yeah.
No one can ever go back in history and be like, we did the Daily, or we did something like the Daily, or whatever. And so it's a matter of having a team that's very, very good. Mike Irwin, our CFO, is a risk finance, computer science guy, super smart. Between him and Ben and Steve, who's been developing software for 30 years, and guys like Phil and my experience in this team, everybody participates in a process that allows them to really kind of shape and drive and put things in the right position so that you're doing the best thing for your client, which is not bullshitting them and taking on stuff that you're not going to do a stellar job at. And maybe that's because of timing, because you've got your resources are constrained at a moment in time. Maybe it's because all the money in the world is not a project you're interested in. I mean, you might also notice that everything we do, you can look at our website, you or another large group of people are probably passionate about, right? Your viewers or other people. We also only pick things that are like awesome. It's like the Daily, it's Grover, it's the X Factor, it's freaking new stuff we're doing. I mean, we kind of tend to do things that we can get excited about, because when you get excited about it and you're truly passionate about your customer stuff, great things happen, right?
It shows up.
When it's a job and you're like, I'm going to make money off of you and do code for X amount an hour or whatever project budget I scoped out, that's when you get mediocre apps, right? Because you don't care. And so there's some times where we have to tell people, sorry, there's no one at this company that is interested in underwater basket weaving, and that.
So it's a polite way. It's a polite way of saying we don't care.
No, it's not. Sometimes, I mean, sometimes we say, look, we're not the right people. But here's the secret: why do those people come back to us? Because if you call us and we tell you we're not interested in that job, we have never once failed to not get you to very capable people who are interested in that job. Because this, again, and I said it in the first interview, and I'll say it again, I'll say it till I'm blue in the face, we're not building a company, we're building a cult. And we're building I meant community. It's
okay. Well, I'm totally going to edit that out.
But as part of, yeah, exactly. but as part of that philosophy, it's like we partner with other companies that people would normally think are competitors. We fund other companies now that we've grown so big that are starting off that are competitors. It's like we always treating people right is what it comes down to. A customer comes to you and you're not interested, you're not passionate. It's okay to be like, this is not something that we're into for whatever reason, or we don't have the time, or it's just not where we want to take the company. Sometimes that's the case. But if you take those people and you introduce them to capable people and you do a nice handoff and you help them to get their dream achieved with somebody who is passionate about it, I tell you what happens. They don't go back to those people you sent them to. Every single time they need something new, they always start with you first. Maybe this is the one you're passionate about and you want to do.
Yeah. So I get it. I mean, you must have set this up when you at the very beginning. It was a very clear vision. This is exactly what you're going to do, because I see a lot of companies start that way, and then it's kind of it gets hand to mouth, and then they start taking any job that they can, and all of a sudden the quality plummets, and you become a commodity, and which Chaotic Moon is not a commodity.
Right. And it's hard to go hand to mouth with that much money, because we use like dump trucks, shovel it like We have a couple of interns that they
We've
just.
What's your job?
We have
money shoveling.
Yeah, Phil is working on a pneumatic tube design where it just suck the money out.
So good.
But no, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's again, I credit Ben Lamb, our CEO, and Mike Irwin, our CFO. My co-founders, and Steve Smith, our CTO, and Adam Lippman. We haven't even talked about.
No, I haven't talked about
since we last talked. One of the key members of management we hired was a guy named Adam Lippman. He's our chief operations officer. He spent 13 years at Genentech, was very instrumental in the Genentech-Roche merger, and is clearly way more of a COO than a company our size needs. But we're hiring strategically. We're planning for the future.
For that kind of growth.
World domination and stuff, yeah. And you know what else has happened last year we didn't even talk about that actually I want to just spend just a moment on, is if you go to the labs page on our website, there's a project that's not the first one we've done. It's the first one we publicized called the Lone Star Rickshaw Project.
Yeah, talk about that.
We've done we've done unbelievably successfully in every area. It's been a blessing. And it's like, it's a bunch of smart guys, but at the end of the day, it's good market timing and a good philosophy. It's a bunch of other stuff, and it's just a bunch of good people, right? Companies are people, and Ben says that all the time. And, we've certainly got a company that is the sum is greater than all the people, because combine them together and you get all these multipliers and exponential increases in performance and stuff. But we want to give back, and so we started a social innovation program. And one of the first things we did was we sponsored 2 Chaotic Moon painted rickshaws that are almost completing a race down the length of India, 2,020 miles, to raise water for charity water, for Frank Water, and to help install clean water wells and things like that. And so we're doing a lot of that. And what we did in the labs is we actually equipped the rickshaws with GPS beacons and stuff, so you can actually track them live on our website and stuff like that. I spent a month almost in Nepal working on a movie called The Brave Girl. And the movie is basically a narrative short, and we went over to learn about how technology and mobile technology is used in the area and how we might be able to help with what the movie is trying to raise awareness of, which is the trafficking of young girls out of Nepal into India, to brothels, right? And so we've been trying to help in those areas. We're also working with the United Nations on a project in Singapore. That's a very similar with UNIFEM, so it's a very similar female-focused project. But we'll do another, hopefully 10 or a dozen of we'd like to do one a month, but we have to find the right ones, where we can be. And picking those is no different than
picking a good.
We don't want to just write a check and say, here's X amount of money. We feel good about ourselves. I mean, we actually participate. I was in the Annapurna mountain range and carrying equipment, and we actually participate. So these are the guys in the rickshaw are. I don't even know how they're bathing. I don't know what they're
you don't want to know.
Carrying in the rickshaw, for that. I mean, because it's like a 2 or 2.5 week, I think, journey in probably one of the worst mechanically reliable vehicles on the planet. And they're like, don't worry, when we stop in towns, there'll be people who help us fix it.
Have they been to India before?
Yes. Unfortunately, at least 1 or 2 of them have. That's
good. Because I got a great interview request. It's the thread of this email from you, from Nepal. It was basically, hey, you want to do an interview from the rice paddies? Right? And it's still the topic, the email that we use today to exchange emails. And it's the greatest line I've ever, I kept it, I love that line. But it just shows that it's not, the way you pick what you're doing on the charity side is the same thing as the way you pick your projects and your clients. And because you don't want to just be like another organization. You just have to funnels cash to something that's not going to make an impact. So, I mean, how awesome is that?
We're thinkers, but we're also doers, right? So we want to get our hands dirty and be doing stuff. And every once in a while, we sacrifice people, it happens.
Just to the gods. Only once or so.
I get Phil to race across India. I was like, you should go with those guys.
Yeah.
I have important labs work to do.
You informed me I had to be here for CES, and they weren't.
That's true. Back. That's true. They weren't going to be back for CES.
Well, why don't we talk about that? I mean, I think always the challenge, Whurley, is that I could listen to you speak for a lifetime, and maybe we should do this on a much more regular basis so that it's not so much to catch up on. But the short of it is that I love all your products. I think that I'm a huge fan of what you guys are doing, and I've followed you, on your travels around the planet. Indonesia, I saw you in Indonesia. I saw you in Nepal. Yep, man. Yep. But this is so you just got back from CES, and I'm not a big fan of these massive trade shows with all hardware, as I kind of alluded to at the very beginning. Is that I believe that hardware is dumb until you put this layer on, which is called software, and then when the software flies, man, you can do so much more with that hardware. And this is a perfect example. I brought this up. I brought the board of awesomeness up to a whole bunch of people that I know, and I said, take a look at this, and they said, well, why would I need that? I'm like, it's okay. You're missing the point.
We achieved our goal.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you a little bit about that. But let me start by telling you a little bit about the labs and what we do.
Yeah, sure.
Because that sets a tone, which is we do 3 Ps and 2 Ws, right? So we do predictive, perceptive, and pervasive computing in the context of mobile, and we do 2 Ws, which is a why and a wow. So the way Phil and I do every project is, we get an idea, or somebody comes to us and hires us and says, we want this technology widget that does this. We take it, we divide it into a project that can be seen publicly. If people see us testing, they'll still have no idea what's going on over here, like a prestige, right? Mm-hmm. And then we do the actual real project. So the important thing to know about the skateboard is it is the why, and the wow comes on.
It's on the other side of this wall.
On the other side of this wall on February 1st, right?
February 1st.
And so there'll be hopefully a big announcement we're participating in. with a major retailer where the same technology platform in the skateboard, in the same code, you invert it and set a few parameters differently, and all of a sudden it becomes something that affects everyday consumers that I guarantee you no one will look at it and say, why would I use it? How could I use it? They'll be like, that is the most amazing thing ever. Mm-hmm. Even though a lot of people said that about the skateboard, which is where we started blurring the line. We were, Molly from CNET and a bunch of other people like, this is the best thing I've seen at the show. And
but the biggest question we were asked, we got the why, but then the next question was always, where can I buy one?
Where can I buy one? Yeah.
Right. And we're planning on, we have to get through a couple of legal loopholes, but we're planning on open sourcing the design and a parts list and cogs and everything to where people can go out and build one if they want. Without a doubt. I mean, we definitely want to, it's not something like we did it as a PR stunt. It's actually a functional part of this other, it is the alter ego version of this other project. But there's no reason, nothing that says we can't share that with everyone, right?
But it's very interesting because you say you don't have a marketing, you don't do a lot of marketing, but the Board of Awesomeness is awesome marketing.
We got back from CES and Ben and Jonathan, everybody were like, we have a marketing plan.
Yeah.
We will make more cool things because I'm going to be blunt. We went out there, we had one interview scheduled with the LA Times.
That's correct.
And we were like, look, it's cool. Here's what we did the Board of Awesome for. It was because we've been showing our current client on this other announcement that's coming up, this is how we're testing the technology, and it's kind of fun, and it's easy, and honestly, it was cheaper and faster. And so, because part of what we want to do is we don't charge like $30 million to do a research project. We want to kind of commoditize research and development and prototyping and stuff. So these companies come to us and they go, you're the guys. We only have a couple of weeks, and we have some fish line and a tablet and some gum and a pencil, and like go. And we want to
found this Coke can on the way over.
Right. And we want to be able to take all the stuff they give us and do something really, really awesome for them. So the Board of Awesome, the idea was this. We're going to go to CES. We're going to show our client. They're going to be like, all right, we won't sue you. We actually believe you can do this. Okay. Because I was like, don't worry, we're doing it with the skateboard. And they were like, what does that have to do with anything? And then we wanted to show it to our other key clients that we had meetings with during CES. Ben had freaking 60, 70 meetings, the first couple of days. We wanted him to be able to take the idea was he was going to take the board around and be like, hey, you want to know why you hire us? Because we do other cool stuff. Like, we think way outside the box. We do all this different stuff. And so we were taking the skateboard to Ben. We just never actually made it to any of those meetings.
He was moving much faster than we were because of the crowds.
Because of the crowds. So we never really got it. So the idea of the Board of Awesomeness was to show this current client, here's what we mean when we say why and wow. You can totally try. It's super cool. I mean, needless to say, they were already blown away, but then they saw it and they were like, this is just, we totally get it. Mm-hmm. But the other thing was, it wasn't really to advertise at CES. In fact, we never really super intended on having a trade show floor. We were going to do the LA Times interview because, those guys have been really nice to us, and we felt like we owed them, and we're going to give them something that we're like, nobody's going to care. And then we're going to show it to all these clients and potential clients and be like, look, we do really, like, we're the guys you want to work on your stuff. We are the mobile company, doing all the cool stuff. And as it ends up, while we were doing the LA Times, you should tell that story.
Oh, but when we were actually we'd done the pre setup. We talked to the guys, and we were actually going into the parking garage so we could do the runs so they could film the board. And we're walking out. We've got everything set up, and his phone rings, and Whurley's phone rings, and he's going, okay, and I see him pick up his phone and go, what? What do you mean? Phil, go check Engadget. What? We're on the front page. What?
Yeah.
So this is our first interview. This is where we're giving these guys a heads up.
It was our first and only interview.
Yeah.
We were only going to be LA Times, show it to customers, and then maybe if we met somebody who's like a big potential customer, we'd be like, hey, come here.
Come
it was like selling watches. It was like, yeah. Like, and as it ended up, it became this PR spectacle.
And we were kind of like, the LA Times guys, we're sorry, we didn't tell them we were going to give you guys.
And their reaction wasn't to be like, oh, we got scooped. They were like, faster, like we have to hurry up and get this and get it edited. And then by then it was like requests started rolling in and stuff started happening. And the next thing you know, on the last day, we took a calculated risk,
Well,
and we started letting some of the reporters ride it. I don't know if you've seen those videos, but
I have. I saw The Verge jump on it, and
the Virgin and Gadget, we took it over there. They were actually their trailers
trailers
were right
faced
next to each other.
oh, nice.
Rides that you see are between the two,
Nice.
and I thought at one point they were going to get in a fist fight over who got to ride it.
yeah, because they had both asked us, but we didn't know they were beside each other. I was like, "Ooh, look, there's a Gadget. Let's go there, and then we'll find the Verge." And then they're like beside it, and so you've got people lined up on each side looking like
Dueling trailers.
Yeah, exactly. But then we took it to CNET. A bunch of people wrote it, and of course, Molly Wood came out and she wrote it. She loved it, and
Her producer didn't like it so
we
much.
can't say with who, but we have an offer from somebody to build multiple boards of Awesome for a big sporting event and a couple other things where you can sign up and sign a waiver.
So a big link.
Sign
sure.
a big waiver.
Sure, and you can ride and take video of yourself riding a board of Awesome, like from the GoPro cameras and stuff, like the video that we made that I'm riding the board in, and then post it to your YouTube account. It's turned into something much bigger than what it was originally intended for.
We started just going capture people's imaginations and just kind of get them thinking about things differently, and it was amazing how quickly it took off, and everybody had to see it.
Capture people's imaginations. Check.
Yep.
No kidding.
Upset Microsoft Kinect team with skateboard that got more press than the giant.
Check, check.
And I'll tell that story. Since you said that, I'll tell that. If you know Major Nelson from Xbox.com,
Yep.
He came by and saw the board and kind of scowled at us and really said, "You know what this is?" And he looked over and says, "Yeah, that's my Kinect that you've hacked." And we just said, "No, we haven't hacked it. This is all we did it stock. We've done everything really well. As a matter of fact, we did it so stock that our Kinect was broken in shipping up there. We ran over to the GameStop, got another one, hooked it up, ready to go. No mods or anything like that." And he looked at it and said, like, "Oh, well, I need to talk to you." And all of a sudden, they were coming over there, and they were some of our biggest fans.
Yeah, I mean, we have a great relationship with Microsoft, though we do love to give them a lot of shit. But the reality is, that's the one thing that the press got wrong on the Board of Awesome. It's not a hack. It's a developer preview of Windows 8 on the tablet they gave away at Build.
Yep.
It's a standard Kinect. The only thing that's hacked is at the end of the power cable for the Kinect, Phil cut it so he could hook it up to the battery.
That's right.
Right? That's it. Everything else is absolutely stock. Hence why we can open source it and make it really easy. But also, kind of what makes it great is it's this really cool thing, but there's no hacking going on there at all. It's just how you use the tools.
Well, it's hacking in cool, clever use of not taking it apart and ripping it to pieces.
But so this is just a standard. It's a custom. It's just a standard Xbox Kinect attached to the front of the board with a preview or developer version of Windows 8
Yeah,
for tablet.
Samsung partnered with Microsoft, and at the Build conference earlier in the year, they gave away a nice, beautiful little machine.
It's effectively
It's
a Samsung Series 7 tablet.
Yeah.
They added some instrumentation on there for Windows 8, but effectively it's what you can buy in the store on the Series 7.
Yep.
Yeah, and so they gave it away, and we wanted to do something really cool with it. And so we thought about the Board of Awesome for a long time, and then it took about 2.5 weeks, two and a half weeks for Phil to put it all together. And we did it literally like up to the last minute before. I mean, before we took off to CES, we had it all together and we tested it and we filmed the video. We're like, this is great. And then Phil was like, so how are we getting it to CES? So we bought Phil bought a double wide golf case. Yeah. And then tell them what happens when you took it to the airlines to check it.
Well, first of all, it was we've got the double-sized golf case. And we go, okay, maybe we hope it'll fit because the dimensions are exactly the same. We get it and go, no, it doesn't work. So we have to take 2 wheels off of it, put the wheels in the case to get it to fit in there just barely. And so we run up to the airport. I'll go ahead and name them because they were so great. Take it to the Southwest Airlines desk. We put it up there, and they go, okay, it's oversized. Let's check the weight. We put it up on there. We're at like 6 in the morning. We're standing up there. It's really early, so hopefully we got them when they're fresh. It's like, it's 114 pounds.
She was like, we're not shipping it.
They won't pick it up. It's 100. So we're at the flight desk. We're pulling out the wheels. We're putting out the batteries. They normally have duffel bags to sell you. If you got things oversized, they're out of those. We get this cardboard box.
So they gave us a cardboard box to put everything in it. And then when we landed in Vegas, Phil opened it up and he was like, "Oh." And so it had a TSA inspection card in it. And when the TSA unpacked it, they couldn't have possibly packed it back right. It's not really their fault. What we used were Instapacks. Are you familiar with those?
Yep. The foam bag, off the bags of the foam. So we had it custom formed, and they just kind of put it back in rather than putting the bags in the right way. And so that's why our Connect looked kind of like a chicken with its neck broken. It was just hanging there.
Yeah.
And that was when we were like, okay, we got 2 hours before LA Times. We've got to find a Connect.
Yeah, so literally we landed. We have a couple hours before the major interview. But the great thing, again, is it's not hacked. We went over to GameSpot. The guy,
the manager,
I can't remember his name. The manager at the mall in Las Vegas is awesome.
Yes.
And he's like, he even said, we showed him the video after he sold his Connect. He's like, "What are you using it for?" And we showed him the video, and he was like, "Listen, I am like your contact for all of CES. Like, if you need another Connect, if somebody breaks it or whatever, you call me. I'll deliver one."
Nice.
Yeah. He was tremendously helpful, but it was so great because it was such an easy thing to put back together and have up and running.
The most annoying part was we had to rewrap the cable. Because
the cable's way longer than what we need, so we had to wrap the USB cable again and again and again.
Which, of course, Microsoft's going to get us some of the new hardware, which has a much
shorter cable. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's perfect. Like, they're playing right into your plan.
They are. Or we gave them a plan.
Nice. Well, you never know with you guys. So I mean, what was the best thing that you heard about the Board of Awesomeness? So first of all, I mean, before we get the name, Board of Awesomeness, like that must have like a brain stroke, a big that's a genius name.
Yeah, don't Jonathan has not worked here long enough for us to let him see this interview.
Okay. It'll go to his head.
No, yeah, probably. No, but again, I thought it should be called Boardzilla. Nobody liked that. One of our conceptual artists who also everybody here is pretty well known at what they do. Matt Frank, who's one of our conceptual artists, actually just got hired a few months ago to redraw all the Godzilla comic book covers. Is very familiar. He's like, he named the company that owns it. And they're like, they will sue you. Anything with Zilla, like, you're dead. Like, and I was just like, okay, I really don't think that. It turned into like this big debate. And Jonathan Guerra was like, the Board of Awesomeness. That's what it's called. Like, ship it.
End of discussion.
Yeah.
Everybody gets it.
And by the way, we've hired him to, like I said, almost 2 years ago, our business start marketing. So I thought, well, you should hire smart people and trust them. And it was great. And my favorite things that I heard, and then you should share yours as well. I liked when Engadget wrote it and said, "Engadget rides the Board of Awesome. Results are awesome." That, because it could have said, "Results are not so awesome, it sucks." So I was really happy. But Wired magazine said that it was one of the most innovative things they'd seen at all of CES, which should scare the shit out of all of us because it's a skateboard to connect on it. What was your favorite things?
I just was overwhelmed with the number of people that were like, "I want one. Please let me have one. What can we do to get one?" Because it was one of those, we just kind of started it out as a thought experiment, as something to look and see, how we can turn the interface around, how we can actually make it so that touchscreens are all the rage right now. What comes after touchscreens? Yeah. And everybody got it, and we're just so excited. And they were like, "Yes, this is exactly what we want to see next." It was humbling to see them being so excited about something we'd done.
Yeah, and Phil always had this crowd around him everywhere. So I at one point started to run ahead to catch up with Ben. I was like, "Oh, they're right around the corner. I'll run and catch them." And then I'd be like, "Phil," and then I go back around the corner, and Phil is like he's preaching to these mobs of people who are like, "What is it? How does it work? Turn it on. Write it right here."
And it was everybody. It wasn't just certain people, or it was just the whole slice of everybody there. We had everybody from senior execs at Fortune 100 companies come up and ask us about it, all the way to the guys in the biker shirts who were obviously there just to see what cool things were going on. It wasn't, this group got it, and these people were like, that's just weird, and we don't want to talk to you. It was everybody that went, "This is cool, it's something different, and we love seeing it, and can I write it?"
Well, I think that's one of the things that I heard, it was so, I think, aptly put, was, it may have been Tom Merritt who said this about CES, is that what he hopes it turns into, and I think that what it has turned into is, it's not an announcement place anymore. People don't go there to make announcements, they do their own stuff. but it's becoming a kind of a World's Fair, like a forward-thinking environment where something like this, the Board of Awesomeness, would fit in. It's like, hey, listen, it's cool. It's going to lead to something that we're going to see in February, but in and of itself, it's rethinking a simple thing, which is, okay, we got piece A, piece B, and a flat board with wheels on it. What can we do with hands, right?
Yeah.
And so I would hope that this is that's why probably everybody was looking for this, because how many tablets can you see with a beveled edge? How many computers? How many swivel laptops can you see? People just tune out, but they see a guy doing this, basically on a board and moving 32 miles an hour. It's either going to be a complete disaster, which is fun to watch anyways, or it's going to be something that that is unique and will stick with you. And I think that's what you guys did with the Board of Awesomeness, not to mention the name.
We're considering a bloopers reel, though, because in the development of the board, the part that you mentioned, a complete disaster, the part that people don't know about is, and we shared some stories at CES, but if you were to throw an exception error or have some bad error handling or whatever, which, by the way, it's a preview release in the OS, and it's developed like that.
Beta 2 on the developer preview.
Yeah. So there's plenty of room for that. Even given us having only a couple of weeks to get it all together, and be like, oh, we'll do this. Oh, that doesn't work. When the board stops, when you throw one of those, the board stops immediately. The problem is laws of physics dictate you continue to remain in motion. So there's tons of videos of me flying off in every direction.
It just looks so natural in the trailer, right?
The best one is where the view is looking down on the bridge, and I come shooting out from the bridge. There's one great clip where you don't see the board, you just see a puff of smoke, and you see me like...
That being said, as he's talking about that, I will, as the official keeper of the first aid kit, notice that we are down only 5 Band-Aids.
And that was because I messed up 2 of them. So
you 3. You messed up 3.
Okay, so we only really used 2. I was like, this isn't a finger Band-Aid.
And it's on your finger, so that's okay. It's not like anything catastrophic happened. So, I've got to ask: is it when you launch this and it becomes evident what this technology was built for? You're going to open source this, but do you think this becomes a product? Can something like this become a product?
Absolutely. I mean, Phil was surprised by how many people ask about where they could get one. But the thing is, again, it's not important can the skateboard be a product. It's important can the platform be productized in multiple products, right? And that's kind of where we're going.
Yeah. Can the interfaces, can those things that sparked everybody's imagination come forward, and we can do not just the skateboard, but what other things can be done? Because obviously people are very interested in interacting that way. They're very interested in that kind of experience. So what other things can this be applied to as well? So we hope not just this, but that there can be lots of things coming out of it that they're going to be thrilled with.
Say that again? Sorry?
That's coming out on the 1st.
I'm going to slow it down. And
you'll have to go. Yeah, you're recording this.
It'll be the Volbergement. That's something like that. That's what's coming out on the 1st. I got it. It's a scoop.
Could be.
Well, I hope. I can't wait till the 1st now. And if you're watching this after the fact, after the 1st, then you obviously know what it is, and the anticipation has been built up. But you know that it started here. You know that it started at CS with something called the Board of Awesomeness from Chaotic Moon Labs. Guys, I can't thank you enough for coming on. I'm so happy that we could actually get this scheduled and done. I know that we were working through it while you were at CES. What's that?
Yeah, it's only taken a few months.
Well, yeah, but CES, I think it just spiraled.
It's not just that; it's our fault. It's like you said, the mail we're doing this interview off of is still from would you like to do an interview from the rice paddies months ago? But that's been our schedule. I mean, that's been the hours we've kept in the schedule. And again, the last minute changes. It's like we never know. Like we could be on a plane in an hour. Who knows?
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you guys doing this. Thank you so much for doing this. Always a joy. I'm a huge fan of what you guys are doing, and I think that if anything else happens from this, if nothing else happens from this, what you've done is sparked imagination. And I think you turned a whole bunch of sane, rational, grown-ups into giddy children again for the time that they spent either on the board, looking at the board, or wishing that they had one of those boards. So kudos to you, man.
Well, thanks, and thank you for the opportunity. I mean, we're always happy, you are the most fun person to interview with, period. And we actually read your stuff, so it doesn't really feel like we're interviewing. We're just kind of like chatting. It's I feel like we should fly out and do one in person, like with drinks that are alcoholic or something.
When we get our new lab spaces, we need to have.
Oh yeah, we're building a new lab space. Why don't we fly you down to the new lab space? That's a great idea.
We'll just have to get the reactor finished.
It'll have ventilation as well. Ventilation, we've learned, is key.
Ventilation is key. It is. Well, if you did it up here, I'm in Ottawa, and we are under about 3.5 feet of snow. So there's got to be some way to work all terrain, right? So come on up anytime.
Yeah.
What's the snow thing that you mentioned? We're in Austin.
Exactly. I got a great post from Om Malik today, which was it's basically, come on, that can't be it. And it was the weather for San Francisco. It's like 48 degrees Fahrenheit. And I just sent him back. I said, man, it's 27 degrees below 0 Celsius here in Ottawa. Don't even complain. I'm in Bermuda shorts and a tank top at 48 Fahrenheit.
So like I said, Phil has a great idea. When the new labs is open, you should come down. You know what we should do? We should reveal the new labs to you. We should do a tour when we get it all built out.
Cool. I'll be down there.
Tell you is like, we're going to have it done next week. But then,
exactly.
We're not going to look at that until after February 1st. We got a lot to do.
Well, I can't wait till February 1st. You guys, and I can't wait to come down and do the unveiling of the labs. How's that?
I think it's a deal.
Done and done. Well, I've been speaking with Whurley. You know Whurley. If you don't, you should. So Evil Genius, you are the GM of the Kadak Moon Labs, right? That's what your official title is?
Yep, and GM just means I am responsible for a P&L.
Nice. And obviously, Phil Wheat, you are the manager of Kadak Moon Labs, and the guy that was with the board the whole time. It's like the keeper up here would be like the keeper of the Stanley Cup. It was almost the same kind of reaction up here.
Oh, I was going to say, actually having the board is kind of like having small children. Every time Whurley goes zooming off with it, it gets out of sight. It's like, okay, where is he?
Where'd it go? I love it. All right, guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, you guys being a part of this. Folks, wherever you are, whatever you are doing, the fact that you've listened to this means so much to me. I really appreciate the fact that you do this all the time. That's why I bring these things. These guys are inventing the future, and hopefully you found this of great value. Reach out to me at untether@gmail.com. Go to it's kadakmoon.com. There's a /labs, and you'll go and find all this information. Some great video. But I just Google Board of Awesomeness. It's the only one. It is the only one. Guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.